Hey everyone, welcome back to Scarlet Sprites. Today we're looking at two of my favorite things, the Neo Geo and the Super Nintendo Classic, and how these two things go together. Most of you already know from watching the channel that I'm a big Neo Geo fan. I've obviously invested in the 4-slot cabinet behind me. I've got about 75 to 80 MVS cartridges, and I also own an Omega consoleized board for use on my television. Now, all that said, there are about 5 games that are relatively rare that I do not own that I would very much like to acquire and just haven't been able to. Let's take a look at those top 5 and an alternative way to play them. The first game on my list coming in at number 5 is Sengoku 2. Now I have the original Sengoku, and I have Sengoku 3. I even have a marquee for Sengoku 3. I don't have Sengoku 2. This game is pretty elusive, and if you do find it on eBay, it is pretty expensive. I've made a few attempts to pick it up, and I've never been able to actually grab it at a reasonable price. It always goes for several $100s. It also stings a little that most people tend to tout this as the best in the series. Of course, the one that I don't have. The game style is pretty much beat 'em up hack and slash. Really would like to pick up Sengoku 2 someday, but until then we'll have to make do with other ways to play it. Number 4 on my list is a sports title, and I don't know that many people recognize how many sports games are actually available on the Neo Geo. There's probably as many sports games as there are fighting games, if you can believe that, maybe even more so. But number 4 on my list is Pleasure Goal, which is a 5-on-5 soccer game, or football if you don't live in North America. Similar to an arcade sports title like you would find with Street Slam or NBA Jam, NFL Blitz, that sort of thing. This game is fast-paced, has decent controls, is fun to play, and is also wildly expensive. Right now there are 3 copies up on eBay, none of which have an original label, and the last few MVS cartridges that I did see sell went for over $300. Number 3 on my list is Super Dodgeball, released by Technos. It's actually the last game they put together before they went completely out of business. It only ever came out, I believe, in North America. However, if you play it on a Japanese console or with the Unibios enabled for a Japan region, it will translate the game into Japanese. It's really kind of odd because the game's art style as well as the characters originate from a Japanese series. Again, if we're looking at eBay, there is currently one offering. It does have an original label, but it is in excess of $300. Speaking of 1996, number 2 on our list also was released that very same year, Twinkle Star Sprites. Twinkle Star Sprites is sometimes affectionately referred to as a cute 'em up rather than a shoot 'em up. I don't really feel manly saying that, so I'm not going to say that again. It's a 2-player versus vertical shooter / puzzle game. It's pretty interesting and definitely worth playing with a friend if you've never had the chance. As far as rare goes, you can't even buy this game on eBay if you wanted to. There's currently no offerings available for the MVS cartridge. However, it is available for the Sega Saturn as well as the Neo Geo CD. Be prepared to spend anywhere from $100 to $150 for those. And finally, the number 1 game on my list of rare Neo Geo games, the one that probably breaks my heart the most for not owning, is Samurai Shodown 5 Special. Not only is this the last game in the series to be released on the Neo Geo hardware, it's also SNK's last game to ever be put out on the Neo Geo, making it a true collector's piece. I do humbly own Samurai Shodown 5, just not the special edition. There are fans who will call this out for being the best in the series, although most fans seem to prefer 2. The game is known for its wide character selection, great gameplay, the pairing of 2 buttons to actually yield a 3rd attack, violent deaths, and also its top-notch gore factor. This game actually ended up being edited at one point by SNK due to the graphic nature of some of the deaths. As you probably already guessed, with this game holding a piece of SNK and Neo Geo history, it goes for quite a hefty price. It's typically found in its full kit form and goes in excess of $1,200. So those are my top 5 rare Neo Geo games, and since I don't have $2,500 to spend to acquire those cartridges and play them on original hardware, the next best thing to experience those games would be to emulate them on some device. Now there's a number of different ways you could go about this, but most notably and recently would be the Super Nintendo Classic. Some of you may already notice that this video is a big nod back to my Neo Geo on NES Classic video that I did about 7 or 8 months ago. So for those of you who missed out on that, the final piece of this video will be showing you how to get these 5 rare games up and running on the Super Nintendo Classic. This video is going to be a little bit more watered down than what we did in the previous Neo Geo on NES Classic video. So if you're just looking for a refresher, this is probably okay. If you want something a little bit more robust, go back and check that video out. So let's go ahead and just jump in and get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you've downloaded Hakchi. I'll put a link in the description, and at the time of this filming, version 2.21F is the most current. The next step is to make sure that you have the Retroarch with Cores mod. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Simply drag and drop that over the Hakchi window, and you'll see a list of the emulators that are installed with this pack. The one we're most interested in this case is the Final Burn Alpha mod. At the top, you'll see that that says very clearly it supports various arcade games, including Neo Geo. Once I'm certain that the Final Burn Alpha emulator is checked, I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and Hakchi will give me a very clear prompt on what to do with my Super Nintendo Classic. Go ahead and make sure that it's turned off. I'll connect it to the laptop, hold in the reset button, and turn it on. You'll notice that once the connection has been made, the instructions in Hakchi will go away, and Hakchi will go ahead and start updating the kernel on your Super Nintendo Classic for you. The next step I can't stress enough. You must get the Neo Geo ROMs from the Final Burn Alpha reference set, and I'll put the number in the description. I can't link directly to ROMs, I don't want any trouble on the channel, but this is very easily found. Google it, you should have no problems finding it. I'm also going to list out the file name of each of the games we just talked about in the video, so you'll be able to find them very easily. So one more time, I can't stress enough how important this is to make sure that you are getting your Neo Geo ROMs from the Final Burn Alpha reference set. The Final Burn Alpha emulator is what we just installed onto the Super Nintendo Classic, and so if we're not getting the games that are approved to work with that emulator, there's absolutely no guarantee that any of this will work. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and click Add Games, and I'm going to select Pleasure Goal, Samurai Shodown 5 Special, Super Dodgeball, Sengoku 2, and Twinkle Star Sprites. Hakchi is going to prompt me. I want to import all of these as the archive. And now that they're added, you'll see I still have the funky file names. So let's go ahead and change that. So I'm just going to highlight Pleasure Goal first and change that to Pleasure Goal. Now I'm going to go down the line. Here's Samurai Shodown 5. I'm going to change that and retitle it. I'm also going to do the next very important step for this process. Down in the command line, you'll notice where it says zip. I'm going to highlight that and change that to FBA. FBA meaning Final Burn Alpha. And I'm going to go down through the rest of my games, title them correctly, and change zip to FBA. The next thing I want to do is go down in the bottom right there and click Google and try to find some cover art for these games. Now this is just a quick tutorial, so I'm not overly concerned about what I'm grabbing here, but you guys get the point. The next critical step, we need to add the Neo Geo BIOS folder to each of the game folders on the Super Nintendo Classic. The Neo Geo BIOS file should be included with your Final Burn Alpha reference set that you downloaded. The name of the file is neogeo.zip. It should be very easy to find. I want you to select the Neo Geo BIOS file, right click, copy, and we're going to paste that into each of the Neo Geo game folders. Now those can be found wherever you have Hakchi installed. You're going to select the games _ SNES folder, and in my case I only have the 5 games that I just added. I'm going to right click and paste my Neo Geo BIOS right into that folder. I'm going to go to Super Dodgeball, paste. Next folder, Twinkle Star Sprites, paste. Sengoku 2, paste. And Pleasure Goal, paste. Once that's done, I can go back to Hakchi and click where it says Synchronize Selected Games with Super NES Mini. At this point, Hakchi should go ahead and upload your games. Once that's complete, you're all done, fire it up, and have at it. One of the great things about the Super Nintendo Classic as opposed to the NES Classic is that the controller is very similar to that of the Neo Geo CD gamepad. When you first fire up a Neo Geo game in the Super Nintendo Classic, the buttons are already mapped for you. And finally, I can confirm that all 5 of these titles work. The gameplay footage that you saw during the first part of this video was all grabbed directly from my own Super NES Classic. And finally, before I sign off for today, I'd like to take a moment just to thank everybody out there who has taken time not only to watch these videos, but to like and then comment on them. I really appreciate that. It's very humbling that I recently hit 500 subscribers on the channel, which is something I never even really thought about when I started this whole endeavor. The channel, I have trouble even finding time to develop content and come up with ideas and film, and so the fact that people are actually enjoying things really helps to make me want to drive forward and continue doing this. So I greatly appreciate all the love from everybody out there. Especially I want to give a special thanks to 16-Bit Bricks for all the comments and likes that he's given. He runs a great channel as well, and also Charlie Cat, who continues to like and share the Neo Geo videos with his community. So again, I don't really know what to say. It's pretty humbling, and if we hit 1,000, if or when we do that, I'd be interested in hearing what you guys want to do. I'll certainly at that point gear an episode or a video to whatever it is you guys want to do. So I really appreciate everything that the community has given back. Thanks everyone, I greatly appreciate it. Till next time.